Hi, I'm Greg Gutfeld along with Kellyanne Conway, Piers Morgan, Charlie Hurt, and she goes parasailing with a cocktail napkin. Dana Perino, the 5. The lame duck is about to deliver his political swan song. Joe Biden giving a rare Oval Office address at 8 p.m. tonight, where he'll share what it's like to be ritually humiliated by his party, stabbed in the back by his best friends, who took the more popular girl to prom. The big geezer is reportedly going to show us in his speech that the 6 months he has left in office won't be a total flop. He's alert, in the game, making tough calls, and doesn't need a mid-afternoon nap. KJP insisting that Biden's decision has nothing to do with his health.
In his letter, he talked about the country, he talked about the party, he talked about the moment that we're in right now. It is not about his health. We don't see ourselves as a lame duck president at all. In this period of time, this is a president that has been incredibly successful, and he's going to do everything that he can to continue to fight for the American people. I haven't seen you in a while.
Well, you guys haven't had a press briefing since President Biden dropped out of the race. Who ordered White House officials to cover up a declining president?
It is not a cover-up. I know that is the narrative that you all want. It is not.
Dems thought they could pull a fast one on voters and cheap, fake, faulty Joe into another term. But now swing staters are starting to question Kamala's role in the cover-up.
She's worked with him. She's been, to my understanding, with him daily, or at least a couple of days a week. Why hasn't this been brought to attention? If she's willing to hide that type of information once she's in office, now what she's willing to hide for herself? Why are you now being okay with exposing Biden's health concerns? Is it because it benefits you?
Knowing the things that they've been hiding in plain sight from the American public, I cannot find it in myself to vote for a Democrat.
Interesting. You know, Dana, he's considered a lame duck, but whenever I type that into my phone, the autocorrect changes it to something else.
That's weird, because mine does the opposite.
Yeah, it's really weird. So if KJP is saying it has nothing to do with his health, she's saying that because then the next question is he should resign. So if it has nothing to do with his health, then it had to do with polling, right, which means this is a coup d'etat.
I know. If I were her, I never would have had a press briefing today. When the president of the United States is going to give a primetime address, you don't have to step on that message. Just let it go and let Peter Doocy cool his heels for one more day. That'll be fine. Like, he'll be back tomorrow. And I would have said to everybody, including the chief of staff or George Clooney or whoever's running the thing, to say, hey, I am going to need a better answer when I go to the briefing room. And if you don't give me a better answer, then I'm not going to do it. And in fact, Chief of Staff Zients, would you like to brief today? Because other than that, I'm not doing it because they're caught in this pickle. Was it his health? And if it's not his health, then that means he was going to lose. And if it's going to lose, why is he going to lose? Oh, he's going to lose because of the policies. And when 90% of Democrats on the CNN poll this morning said that Democrats approve of Biden dropping out, that's got to feel like a real punch in the face. And I get that. And they feel bad. And they feel bad for him. They have genuine affection for him. And I get that. I understand it. But he's got a choice to make tonight. He has to explain to the American people what happened, but also he has to reassure people that he could be president for the next 6 months.
But you can't pull someone out if they're going to lose. Right. Because that's anti-democratic. You already chose the candidate, Dana. I thought you knew politics.
I know, honestly. What is wrong with me? Also, can I add you one other thing before I turn over to this august panel? David Axelrod, who used to work for Obama, he has a podcast called Hacks on Tap, and I listened to it today. One of the things he said that he was surprised and trying to just grapple with the fact that this point about them covering up his health is actually resonating with more voters than he thought it would.
Thank you for adding that.
Thank you. I thought it was very valuable.
KAC, good to see you. So here's the thing. Tonight, he shouldn't tell Americans how to vote, but will he?
He could.
But he shouldn't.
He could. Well, he shouldn't. But getting back to your essential points, the conversations and the concerns among the Democrats were not moral. They were medical. They were political. They weren't emotional. They were electoral. They kept saying, you're going to drag down the House and Senate with you. You're going to return Donald Trump to the White House. In the end, they didn't have affection for President Biden. They stripped him of his presidency, but I think they also stripped him of his dignity. And here's Kamala Harris, tip of the spear, front of the line. of everyone who has had access to Joe Biden routinely, never had the courage, the integrity, transparency, or love of country to stand up and say, what is going on here? He's failing before our eyes. All these people out at the Hollywood fundraiser, they spoke after the debate, not after the fundraiser. There's been this lag of time. Not a single person, Van Jones is teary. Chris Coons, a very close personal friend from Delaware of Joe Biden's, is all teary about Biden having to leave the race. But not one of them thought, let me look past electoral politics and electability and say, I care about this person. There's the Machiavellian idea that maybe Joe and Jill Biden are saying, Kamala Harris, go, go, go. Go try to beat Donald Trump without us and see what happens. And then muddy her up a little bit for 2028. So we'll see how far he goes in supporting Kamala tonight. The other thing I would say is she's been his co-pilot all along. Obviously, she's going to eat and own all the policies, the border, the economy, et cetera. But as his co-pilot, she ejected by parachute as it was about to crash. And people need to reckon with that. They need to say, you don't have loyalty to Joe Biden and to the party. The other question is, how is she going to help some of these Senate candidates in Wisconsin, in Michigan, in Pennsylvania? It's an open question for her. Does a map shift? She'll have a big bump now, and then I think she'll have a little bit of a slump later on after she has to answer tough questions.
All right. You know, Piers, is he doing this speech tonight because he has to let the American public know that he's still president and that he shouldn't be resigning? I don't think people believe he's running the country.
I don't think even he knows he's still president. Look, it's great to be back in your fine country and your fine show. I think it's taken 248 years, hasn't it, for you guys to finally realise
It's a mistake.
Getting rid of the British monarchy is a terrible mistake.
Yes.
Bring back the British monarchy is the only solution to this complete carnage that is unfurling. I just think it's he calls, I'm not a lame duck president. No, because lame ducks are just slightly off, right? A lame duck can still waddle along.
Yeah.
Okay? We're not talking lame duck. We are way, way, way beyond lame duck. We have entered, and I think you'll appreciate this, we've entered the Monty Python dead parrot sketch.
Right.
Which, if you remember, a guy buys a parrot and it's dead. And he brings it back to the shop and he wants a refund. And then they have a big argument about whether the parrot is dead or not. It's a bit like Karine Jean-Pierre today, where she's trying to explain that he's still the greatest president that's ever lived. He's at the top of his game. And, of course, we'll be looking forward to spending the next 6 months continuing to be the greatest president you've ever seen. When, in fact, everyone who's looked at him thinks he's a dead parrot. And the argument eventually goes down to him saying, the owner who bought the parrot, he has ceased to be. He is bereft of life. He is pushing up the daisies, to which the Karine Jean-Pierre figure responds, no, he's just stunned. He's pining for the fjords. I think Joe Biden is pining for the fjords, if I was Karine Jean-Pierre, but the rest of us are thinking, no, he's not. In political terms, he is pushing up the daisies. And I think it's become sad and tragic, and the rest of the world's looking on thinking, really, America? You are the great superpower of the country, of the world. What is happening? Get a grip of yourselves. And it can't get a grip of itself as a country when the current incumbent president is so obviously unfit for the office.
Yeah. You know, Charlie, I think, is Dr. Jill on the way to the Olympics?
Yeah. Yes, she's in air.
Why wouldn't she stick around for her husband? Or is she like, I'm having nothing to do with this. I'm going to Paris, have some croissants, make out with a mime.
Because it has nothing to do with his health. That's why he doesn't need his doctor around. You all have English humor. We have politics. That's what we have to laugh at.
Right.
In our
Certainly no
country.
humour. That's for sure.
Yeah.
He did, because he was in England for a bit.
Yeah.
So he picked up our humour.
Rubbed off on me.
So nobody thinks that any of this would be happening except that the poll numbers are as terrible as they are. And the poll numbers would not be as terrible as they are except for all of the policies of Kamala Harris and Joe Biden. I would honestly, I ask all my friends this who are Democrats, give me the one area that Democrats can point to and say, we're winning on this. It's not inflation. It's not world peace. It's not the border. There's nothing they can actually run on except maybe possibly abortion. And that's a pretty grim thing to be running on. But no, it's clearly all about this, about how unpopular it is. And to have Joe Biden say, oh, I don't want to be a lame duck. I'm going to go out here and give the American people more of what they have said time and time again they don't want any more of. It's and obviously we're enjoying this very nice honeymoon right now for Kamala Harris. This is not going, in a week or 2 weeks, if we do get back to talk about the issues, it's going to be really bad for her.
Yeah. All right.
Click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You won't get it anywhere else.